moment when you realize that no matter how educated you become, how well you dress, how carefully you speak, or how much money you earn, there is a door that never opens. You may be allowed to stand near it, you may be allowed to look through it, but you are never truly invited inside. This is the moment people begin to sense an uncomfortable truth. The upper class is not something you simply enter, it is something you are either born into or permanently excluded from, and the reason has very little to do with money. Most people believe class is economic, that if you earn enough, save enough, or succeed enough, acceptance naturally follows. But the upper class does not operate on income alone. It operates on psychology, culture, and invisible codes that are never written down. These codes are learned early, reinforced quietly, and guarded fiercely. And if you did not grow up inside them, you will always feel slightly out of place. This video is not about resentment, it is not about anger, it is about clarity. Because understanding why the upper class will never fully accept you frees you from wasting your life trying to earn approval that was never meant to be given. This is a psychological and philosophical exploration of class, power, and belonging. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The first illusion to dissolve is the idea that wealth equals class. Money is fluid, class is not. The upper class is defined less by what it owns and more by how it thinks, behaves, and signals belonging. Sociologists call this cultural capital, but long before it was named, it was enforced. The upper class learns how to move through the world without urgency. They are taught comfort with authority, ease in silence, and confidence without performance. These traits are not taught later in life, they are absorbed in childhood. This is why someone can acquire wealth quickly and still feel like an outsider. Their speech may be slightly off. Their humor may land awkwardly. Their ambition may appear too visible. They try too hard because they were never trained not to. The upper class senses this immediately. Not consciously, but instinctively. It registers as unfamiliarity, and unfamiliarity is never trusted. This is why acceptance never arrives. You can mimic the surface, but the subconscious signals betray you. The upper class does not ask how much you earn. They ask, silently, where you come from, and the answer is always revealed in ways you cannot fully control. The upper class does not exclude loudly, it excludes quietly. There are no insults, no confrontations, no visible rejection. Instead, there is distance. Invitations stop coming. Conversations remain polite but shallow. Access is limited without explanation. This is not accidental. It is how in-groups protect themselves. Psychology shows that every dominant group maintains cohesion by identifying who belongs and who does not, often without conscious awareness. The upper class operates as a closed psychological ecosystem. Trust is extended inward and withheld outward, not based on morality or merit, but on familiarity. People feel safe around those who mirror their upbringing, their assumptions, and their unspoken rules. This is why effort rarely helps. Trying too hard signals insecurity. Asking questions signals unfamiliarity. Explaining yourself signals difference. The upper class reads these signals instantly. They do not need to articulate them. Their nervous system already knows. From childhood, they were taught what belongs and what does not. They were trained to sense deviation the same way one senses a wrong note in music. Something feels off, even if they cannot explain why. This creates a painful paradox for outsiders. The more you attempt to integrate, the more visible your outsider status becomes. Silence would serve you better than performance, but silence itself requires confidence that can only be learned early. This is why acceptance remains elusive, not because you lack value, but because you lack shared conditioning. And so exclusion happens without cruelty. It happens through omission, through polite distance, through doors that are never slammed, only never opened. The upper class does not need to reject you. They simply do not recognize you as one of their own. Most people assume that success earns respect, that rising economically will naturally lead to admiration and inclusion. But in the psychology of the upper class, upward mobility often produces the opposite reaction. It triggers discomfort, even disgust. This reaction is not moral, it is biological and symbolic. The upper class interprets rapid mobility as a violation of order. Class, in their worldview, is not meant to be crossed easily. It is meant to be inherited, stabilized, and preserved. When someone from outside rises quickly, it destabilizes the hierarchy. It forces the upper class to confront the illusion that their position is natural rather than protected. And illusions, once threatened, provoke hostility. Not open hostility, but withdrawal, distance, dismissal disguised as politeness. The upwardly mobile are often labeled as excessive, too loud, too ambitious, too visible. Their success is not seen as elegance, but as intrusion. They are perceived as people who arrived without learning restraint. This is why new money is mocked while old money is revered. It is not about wealth, it is about control. Philosophers like Nietzsche understood this instinctively. He saw aristocracies not as moral elites, but as groups that defend distance as a survival strategy. Distance protects power, familiarity threatens it, and so the upper class tolerates outsiders only as long as they remain useful, entertaining, or non-threatening. Once you begin to demand equal footing, you cross an invisible line, and the tone changes. Smiles become thinner, access becomes limited. The message is subtle but clear. You may succeed, but you may not belong. At the deepest psychological level, class exclusion is driven by a fear that few people openly admit, the fear of contamination. This fear is not about hygiene or morality. It is symbolic. It is the fear that proximity to outsiders will dilute identity, destabilize norms, and expose fragility. The upper class does not merely possess wealth, it possesses a story about itself, a story of refinement, discipline, and superiority. This story must be protected at all costs, and protection requires separation. That is why elite spaces are not simply expensive. They are coded, they have unspoken rules, behavioral cues, cultural signals that cannot be learned quickly. Pierre Bourdieu called this cultural capital. It is not what you own, but how you move, how you speak, what you find amusing, what you consider beneath you. These signals operate like a filter. Anyone who has not absorbed them since childhood is instantly recognizable. This is why effort backfires. When you try too hard to blend in, the attempt itself becomes evidence that you do not belong. Authenticity is assumed only for those born inside the system. Everyone else is performing, and performance invites suspicion. The fear of contamination also explains why the upper class prefers distance even when outsiders succeed. Success alone does not neutralize difference. In fact, it intensifies it. Because success proves that exclusion is arbitrary, and arbitrariness is dangerous to hierarchies. So instead of welcoming you, the system tightens. Invitations become scarce, networks close ranks. You are praised publicly and excluded privately. This is not personal, it is structural. Carl Jung would describe this as projection. The upper class projects its own fear of illegitimacy onto the outsider. Your presence reminds them that status is not destiny, that their position could have been yours under different conditions. And that realization is intolerable. So the barrier remains, invisible, polite, firm, not because you failed, but because you succeeded. The final myth that must be dismantled is the most comforting one, the belief that merit alone determines belonging. Society teaches that if you work hard enough, improve yourself enough, and succeed visibly enough, acceptance will follow. This belief keeps people striving, but it is not true. Merit determines access to resources. It does not determine admission into identity-based hierarchies. The upper class does not function as a reward system. It functions as a preservation system. Its purpose is not to recognize excellence, but to reproduce itself. This is why stories of social mobility are celebrated loudly and practiced quietly. They are held up as proof of fairness while remaining statistical exceptions. The myth survives because people need to believe the system is just, and the elite needs others to keep playing the game. Carl Jung warned that when a collective belief becomes too sacred to question, it turns pathological. Meritocracy, in this sense, is a shared delusion. It explains success without examining inheritance. It praises effort without acknowledging insulation. It glorifies winners while erasing the gatekeepers. Once you see this clearly, something important happens. Resentment dissolves, not because injustice disappears, but because the illusion collapses. You stop measuring your worth by access to rooms that were never designed to include you. The most dangerous trap is not exclusion, it is internalization. When you believe rejection reflects your inadequacy, the system wins twice. First by excluding you, then by making you blame yourself. But when you understand the rules, you regain agency. You stop seeking validation from spaces that require your diminishment. You stop contorting your identity for acceptance that will never be permanent. And you begin to build parallel structures of meaning, dignity, and power. Jung believed individuation begins the moment a person stops trying to belong and starts trying to become whole. This is the deeper freedom hidden inside exclusion. You are released from the need to perform, released from borrowed values, released from silent humiliation. The upper class cannot accept you because acceptance would force it to confront its own contingency. But you do not need its acceptance to live fully, meaningfully, or truthfully. Belonging that requires erasure is not belonging. Respect that demands silence is not respect. And access that depends on pretending is not freedom. The moment you stop chasing their approval, you reclaim something far more valuable than status. You reclaim authorship over your own life. And in that sense, exclusion becomes initiation, not into their world, but into your own. If this perspective challenged the way you see society, consider subscribing. These ideas are not meant to comfort, they are meant to clarify. And clarity is the beginning of freedom.